Okay, here we are. Alt.nerd.obsessive. Worst episode ever.
Hey everybody, welcome to Worst Episode Ever, a podcast for people who love The Simpsons, by people who love The Simpsons, about how much we hate The Simpsons. We're here trying to find which is the worst episode ever. And as always, my name is Dan.
As always, my name is Jack.
And today, it's a very special episode, Jack, because something's coming up this Sunday. It is...
Puppy Bowl
29. I have no idea if it's Puppy Bowl 29.
I don't think it's Puppy Bowl 29.
They haven't been doing it for 3 decades. It's the Super Bowl is this coming weekend if you're listening to this live. If you're not listening to it live, if you're listening to it the Monday or any day after that Sunday, the Super Bowl has already happened. But no,
oh my God, I forgot about the game.
Super Bowl's coming up, so we are watching an episode from Season 10 called Sunday, Cruddy Sunday. I might call it Crundy Sunday Crunday. I'll try not to. That's from Season 10. We're going to be watching that. It was suggested by Dylan.
Thank you, Dylan.
Dylan.
From Predator. Dylan.
Oh, yeah. I know nothing about the Super Bowl this year. I know the Panthers are in it and something about Peyton Manning.
Josh Kerp, friend of the show, he's a big Panthers fan. I always see him on Twitter playing them up.
Well, for your sake, Josh.
So, since I have no stake at
friend
all.
Friend of the show.
I'm not a not a Broncos fan. I'm not a Panthers fan. I really have no interest. So just because Josh is a big Panthers fan, I'm going to root for the Panthers.
All right. So both of us and the podcast are officially Panthers fans through this Sunday.
We're giving them our endorsement from the editorial
board. We're making them our lock of the week. And that's what we're going to do. So Sunday, Cruddy Sunday, originally aired January 1999 from Season 10.
Pre-February 1999.
It is. It is, indeed. It is also pre-9/11. Jack, have you seen this one?
Yeah, I've seen it a few times. Now, you're very excited about this because you like this episode.
Okay, we've tipped my hand. I do like this episode.
I remember not liking it that much. To me, this was, at the time, a post-classic episode. Now, obviously, It's probably way better. There's several jokes I remember really liking, but
we'll get into talking about that when we actually watch it.
But I've seen it, and I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, I've seen this one several times. I am a fan. It's got Fred Willard. I like him.
I love Fred Willard.
We all love Fred Willard.
Who doesn't like who sees Fred Willard and is like, oh, what a cunt?
People who were in the movie theater where he was jerking off. That's a real thing.
Really?
Yeah.
He got caught?
Oh yeah. He got caught.
Oh.
But it was kind of like swept under the rug. Remember when Pee Wee Herman did it? He was just banished from Hollywood?
You meant figuratively.
Figuratively and literally. He just swept it right under the rug. He was. And
Fred Willard?
Yeah, and then everyone was just like,
I know
who cares?
Pee Wee Herman and Boy George, but Fred Willard. What was he?
Boy George
was he in a porn theater?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
What else did he do in a porn theater?
I don't know. It's like I thought maybe he was like watching Mulan or something.
Let's focus on the good about Fred Willard. But yes, that is a thing that actually happened.
What's your favorite Fred Willard role?
I gotta go Best in Show. Actually, maybe A Mighty Wind. I don't even know. One of the Christopher Guest movies for sure.
All right, I'm trying to think of something other than a Christopher Guest movie that he's great in, and I'm blank. He's great in Spinal Tap. Well, as the Air Force commander or whatever.
Yes, he is. He's also was great on Review. I know you haven't watched Review, but you really need to.
He was on a few sitcoms. I think he's Phil's dad on Modern Family.
But
there's something earlier that before I was even into Christopher Guest movies as a kid that I was always like, I love that guy, and I can't think of what it might have been.
Me too. I know he had a show, I think it was Fernwood Tonight or something like that.
I think, honestly, my first introduction to him was probably Roseanne. He was a recurring character.
We love Fred Willard. Let's get into this episode. We're going to take a break.
Was he Martin Mull's boyfriend in the later seasons of Roseanne?
Was he? Oh, maybe he was.
I think that's where I first started knowing who he was.
Wow, I totally forgot Martin Mull was even on Roseanne. You just unlocked something in my brain that was like, Roseanne, season 7, and it just came flooding back to me.
Yeah, it was after they worked at the diner and he was their boss.
Right,
and when he became
before they won the lottery.
Gay.
Yeah. Okay, well.
I think Fred Willard was his boyfriend.
We're going to save this for the Roseanne cast. That's the
entire podcast is just us eating pizza and Chinese food while spinning in a circle around the microphone.
And John Goodman is there.
Very
good.
In between Cloverfield sequels.
Yeah, right. Okay, we're going to take a break. We're actually going to watch Sunday Cruddy Sunday. This intro's getting really out of hand.
It's like the pregame of the Super Bowl.
If you haven't watched this episode, Simpsons World can help you out. Otherwise, you know what you're doing. But we're going to take a break and watch Sunday Cruddy Sunday, and you should too.
Wally and I have all the tickets we need.
Sorry, fellas, but these tickets are counterfeit.
What? Counterfeit?
Yeah, see, the hologram's missing. And there's no such team as the Spungos. And finally, these seem to be printed on some sort of cracker.
Stop eating our tickets!
So that was Sunday, Cruddy Sunday.
It sure was, Jack. It sure was.
This aired after the Super Bowl. I remembered it while I was watching it, and I was like, I remember Family Guy aired after a Super Bowl, and I was doing the math. I was like, oh, they must have aired the same night.
They did.
And I really specifically remember watching it that night, watching these back to back, especially because Family Guy, I fell in love with it immediately. Like the next day, I remember we were so excited.
I remember the two of us talking about, what's this Family Guy show? It's so weird.
It was the Kool-Aid man bursting through the wall where we had decided, like, okay, this is awesome.
This is a show to watch. And we did watch it. And then it was canceled.
Season or two, yeah.
And then it was
I don't think
back.
I followed it all the way till the third season. Anyway, so I just want to note that there was the same night as Family Guy.
Good note.
Plot recap. So it opens up where Bart's in the post office on a field trip. I guess the whole school is. Police is there too. Bart finds a value pack coupon and he gives it to Homer for a birthday or something. I don't know. But Homer takes the coupons and he uses them for all these things. He goes and gets his tires changed at the mechanics. That's where he meets Wally Kogan. Is Wally Kogan's the name of a Simpsons writer, isn't it?
I was going to get into this, but we can get into it right now. It's actually two Simpsons writers mixed together.
Kogan
Jay Kogan and Wallace Wolodarski were a writing
they were the
team.
partners. Yeah,
the writing team early on, which is kind of what.
Well, they were the producers, weren't they? Weren't they the showrunners for the good seasons?
They weren't. I don't think they were ever showrunners.
Who were the
but
two
they were
showrunners for season 7, 8, and 9?
You're thinking of Bill Oakley and Josh
That's
Weinstein,
what I'm
but
thinking
they were early Simpsons writers,
yeah.
and so they kind of just took their names and smashed them together, which is what they did on Last Man on Earth, which I don't know if you're watching. On Fox
It's
Forte.
hands down best sitcom since Arrested Development.
He's Phil Miller, which is Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
Right.
So
he meets Wally, played by Fred Willard, who's a travel agent in Springfield, and Wally puts together a package for them to go to the Super Bowl. One of those package deals where you can get 30 guys, you can all take a bus together and get tickets.
But we all been there, a bus with 30 guys.
So we get a bunch of general Springfield males that go along, and most of our Springfield secondary characters and tertiary, and they go with Homer and Wally and Bart to the Super Bowl. And when they get to the Super Bowl, they find out their tickets are fake. They try to break in. They get arrested. They get put in the stadium jail, which I think is a real thing. I think they do have like little holding areas.
Yeah.
And then Dolly Parton breaks them out, and they get lost in the stadium, and they're missing the game. And finally, they find Rupert Murdoch's private booth, and they crash that. And then Rupert Murdoch has them all killed, or was?
Yeah, he has them killed. No, I think they ultimately.
Oh, no, then they escape. They get chased by their guard, by Murdoch's goons.
Right. And then they get pulled
and then
into
they end up in the locker room of the winning team. So even though they missed the whole game, they have like a once-in-a-lifetime experience where they're celebrating with the winning team. Bill Clinton calls.
Right.
They have a blast. Meanwhile, there's a B plot with Marge and Lisa who are bored. They're not at the game. They go through the board games in the closet, and they find Vincent Price's...
They can't go to the game, so they get a board game.
There you go. Not why it's called a board game, but...
But that's right. That's how you just said it, basically.
And they play with Vincent Price's egg magic, where they put together eggs, but their feet are missing, so they call Vincent Price to get the eggs. And then what happens?
Dan is tickled and enjoys it. And we'll
the
talk
legs
about it.
are ever? I know Vincent Price.
They never actually get the legs.
That plot just kind of goes away.
We do see Vincent Price at the very end.
We see him at the end. So when the episode ends and they all go home, they go back to Springfield. We get a wrap up from who is it? John Madden and
Pat Summerall and John
Pat Summerall.
Madden,
and they're doing their classic football commentary and color commentary on the episode, and they say, "What do you think of the B plot with Vincent Price?" And then Vincent Price pulls up, and they get on the bus and drive away with him and his nephew Jody.
And you and I looked at each other and said, "They're talking about the episode. They're at a bus stop.
They're at a bus
There's a crazy character pulling up doing a wacky voice. What does this remind us of?"
Yeah, so pretty much The Simpsons itself predated and built up in 1999 when we were young pups, except instead of me and Dan, it was
John Madden
and John Madden, and instead of Hemus, it was Vincent Price. But it was a bus stop, and there was some critical analysis of a post-classic Simpsons episode.
Yes, so
hell of a coincidence.
It was, who would I be? Would I be John Madden or Pat Summerall?
I think you'd be Summerall.
Okay.
I kind of talk in circles.
Fair enough.
So
I'll give you that. Are one or both of them dead?
I'm
I'm
a spokesperson for Ace Hardware too. So
okay.
I think
There
that's
you go.
kind of
that makes sense.
Yeah,
and you have a series of very, very lucrative football video games.
I do. Pacone, get Pacone 16
From Jack's Movies Entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. From Jack's Games.
Jack's Games.
Jack's Games. Available on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
That's right. That's a PlayStation.
I got it.
Cut off. I don't know what we're cutting anymore. But anyway.
So that's the plot.
Yes.
So should we just get the B plot out of the way, because we've talked
talk a
about
little egg magic?
We've talked about a few episodes where they had, especially when it stars Marge and Lisa, but the B plot that has literally no connections to the A plot. They just needed something to fill the space. A certain character, usually Marge and Lisa, don't fit into the A plot at all. They wanted to give them something to do, and they give them this innocuous other thing to do. And I think this is the prototype for that. I think this is the original, like, complete weird, unnecessary beep. This is before the doorbell one, right?
I think that's season 12. Yeah, you're right. And in fact, you're very right, because in the commentary for this episode, they said, we needed something for Lisa and Marge to do. We tried to come up with the most boring thing possible, which was craft kit at home.
That's very meta to come up with something as boring as possible, but it's also as boring as possible.
I completely disagree with you. But the way that Vincent Price comes into it is just because they heard Dan Castellaneta do a Vincent Price voice, and they were like, how can we work Vincent Price into this show?
Let's put him into this egg thing.
They just put him into this egg thing, which is a reference to his Batman character, Egghead.
I didn't even think of that.
I never thought of that until today. So.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
But yeah, you clearly don't like the B plot.
All right, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If Vincent Price if it was just about an egg thing and not any other, and no celebrity was endorsing it, or maybe a celebrity such as Tony Randall instead of Vincent Price, because Tony Randall also endorses my game WordQuest.
Which you tried to get us to play not too long ago.
We did.
Tony Randall's WordQuest.
You were supposed to come to my place for my New Year's party.
That's right.
And
you guys actually
bailed
did play
at the last minute.
Oh, well.
And we did play Tony Randall's WordQuest, and it was quite the entertainment.
Tony Randall's WordQuest.
Yeah, it's a real game from the 70s. It's a board game. It's like Trivia Pursuit, except there's one category, and every single question is just a vocabulary word with 4 choices.
It's basically a vocabulary builder, right?
It's a vocabulary test.
Very nice.
But you roll a dice and then move.
Yeah, and Tony Randall's there.
Anyway, so I'm asking you, if Tony Randall or some other non-eccentric celebrity as Vincent Price was the key to this plot, would you have found it as interesting?
Probably not, but I think what this whole storyline has going for it is they're right that Dan Castellaneta's Vincent Price voice is very funny. Listening to him talk about his nephew Jody.
It's not the best impression. Bill Hader's is much better, but it is interesting. It's funny to listen to.
It's a funny voice, and if there's one thing I like in this world, Jack, it is funny voices. Believe it or not, I'm tickled by funny voices.
I would have never guessed.
And there's 3 overall scenes in this storyline. There's when they are first doing they're first in the closet picking out the craft kits.
They don't realize there's. Oh yeah.
That's the first one. Then they're actually doing it, and there's no
feet.
The feet are missing, and they call it up. And then it's one without Lisa and Marge. It's the one at the end where we actually see Vincent Price pull up. He was dead at this point in real life, so it adds to the mystery. It's just the complete absurdity of this storyline and the.
But again, is it absurd without Vincent Price? Otherwise, it's just what's absurd it's absurd that the game is putting together eggs. But I don't know, it's really no different than them finding a Mr. Potato Head in the closet and playing with that instead.
Right,
but I wouldn't call that absurd. It's a weird leisure activity.
I guess it's the mundanity of it is funny. It's funny that like Marge is so let's do a craft kit.
I get that the joke, quote unquote. Again, I'm subtracting Vincent Price from the equation.
Right.
I get that the joke is look how boring this B plot is, but to me it doesn't transcend. It's so boring that it's now not boring. It quite didn't make it, so it just stayed boring.
To give it a little bit more weight, I think there is also kind of character dynamic in it where Lisa also finds it very boring, and maybe she gets into it a little bit at the end. But then there's no feet, and then that becomes that whole super weird thing where it's like, well, it says feet included right on the box, which is an absurd thing to happen.
Yeah, I know they
why
don't
would
have,
there be no feet?
I know
why
they don't have time
included?
to really do anything with this plot, but maybe it would have been more interesting if the plot was actually about how the mundanity of them trying to find the feet, and that's how Lisa and Marge bond on this like wild goose chase for something so innocuous, but it's more the journey is the point. They bond on the search for these feet. They go to all the, rather than to just make a phone call and have a very funny Vincent Price dialogue.
I think you're right that would have been a better story, but this entire episode has no story at all. This episode is a series of gags.
And now that we know this
by
was
design,
made,
they actually wrote it that way.
And this was
from the
made.
commentary.
They knew this was going to be the Super Bowl episode. So they basically, this is for people who don't normally watch The Simpsons. This is they're trying to get that massive Super Bowl audience. So yeah, they're just trying to get
sit there and just have a couple of chuckles.
You want to get football references in there,
yeah,
and you want to get gags that will make people laugh, and maybe tune in next Sunday for the next Simpsons episode.
Right.
Oh, by the way, I'm very excited about. Not that I'll probably watch it. Maybe I will because I'm probably going to stay home this year.
Okay.
But I love the CBS's choice this year to do their Late Show and the Late Show as their post Super Bowl. You know, usually you pick,
so it's Colbert is on right after the Super Bowl?
And I think also James Corden after that.
Okay.
I think that's like it's usually they pick their best sitcom, the one that they really want to give, or drama that they Grey's Anatomy, Alias,
right?
New
they want
Girl
to put like
with
Scorpion
the Prince
on
episode,
there or something, or
they want to try to give a big
Wife.
boost to the show, a show they think either needs it or will have enough people to get people to talk about it, and then expand from there.
Right. I think you have the largest audience. What do you want to do?
I think picking a talk show is a great idea. ABC did it. I remember actually, no, it wasn't the year after this. It was like 2003. Jimmy Kimmel Live premiered after the Super Bowl.
Yes, I remember that.
But I think it's a great idea to have Colbert do it.
Definitely.
So props to CBS for that. But yeah, this was pretty much just a gag machine.
Just rolling it back by design. They wrote it that way.
Yeah.
They said we didn't pay attention to structure or any of that stuff.
So,
it was just trying to be
just
funny.
Because I admit it, I don't know. It's why can't you be a gag machine and also have a plot like the first 8 seasons of The Simpsons?
They're not admitting it in the show. It's not like a lamp shading type situation. And if you notice, there were 4 credited writers on this show,
really?
which I never noticed before, and I saw it today when we were watching. I was like, interesting, and then saw on Wikipedia that like they just kind of threw it together.
I'm sure one guy wrote the whole thing, and 3 guys worked on the egg structure, the structure of the egg.
Well, you might be right, but I feel like
I'm being sarcastic.
Neither of us have been in a writer's room, or maybe you have. I haven't.
I mean, technically, any room I'm in is a writer's room, Dan. But
wow. Dropping that, okay. No, but I feel like they throw things out and people suggest different things, but usually 1 or 2 people put their name on the actual script.
Right.
So it's interesting that
somebody gets assigned the script and then it might go through the
4
table.
people are credited with this one.
Yeah,
I'm assuming the entire writer's room contributed to it.
I like every episode. Yeah.
But I think you made a good point that why didn't they make a good episode that is also funny? I don't know. Did you? You seem to not be crazy about this episode. I don't think you hate it as much as you did some of the most recent ones they've done.
When I first saw it, like I said in the intro, when I first saw it, I said, this is much weaker than The Simpsons I'm used to, because at that point you had 8 great seasons and 2 weaker ones, especially, and 9 was not as weak as 10, but 10 was, compared to the first 9 seasons even, was objectively weaker. Now, you pull back the magnifying glass, 27 seasons.
Exactly.
Now it's obviously closer to that than, it's Purgatorio. It's
right. When we were watching, when this first aired, we knew this was like, these aren't as good anymore, but there's still some jokes in it. We having no idea that it's going to run another fucking 20 years.
So at the time, I thought it was as weak as The Simpsons can get, which is true at the time. And now I see it as closer to the better episodes.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just found it.
So
I found it just mediocre. I didn't hate it. I just, I wasn't. There's a lot of jokes I did laugh at, but I wasn't laughing the way I would laugh at a season 7, season 6.
Yeah.
I was laughing much more than I would at a season 14, season 18. But the B plot especially, I just found especially pointless. I like Vincent Price. I like Vincent Price impressions.
Yeah,
I think that saved the entire plot. If you take Vincent Price out of it, I really think
I don't think they would have done it without the Vincent Price thing.
You're saying it was so mundane. That's the joke, and it just, for me, it just didn't. It didn't surpass that line of so boring. It's it was like the rake. Like take the rake gag. The rake gag is funny because it goes on so long that it's funny. Imagine if it was somewhat shorter and it was like it was too long to be funny, but it wasn't quite long enough to be not.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's funny. It's the Vincent Price stuff is the funniest stuff, and it's just the complete ridiculousness.
He's dead.
I thought he was dead. He's on the phone.
He has a nephew, Jody.
They know that he's calling. He knows that they're calling about feet from a thing from 30 years ago.
If you're calling about the feet,
his nephew Jody, who's clearly was not alive when this egg magic thing was created. Like, none of it adds up, and that is what makes it funny to me. It's not something I would want every week, but I think at the time it was kind of unique. Like you said, it was the prototype of these Lisa and Marge need to do something stories.
I don't think I'm fundamentally against B plots that have nothing to do with the A plot and are completely non sequitur. Right. I do seem to feel like I like them in general. I like them less than a B plot that is tied in somehow.
Yeah.
And I see this one as the godfather of that problem. So I guess that's why I'm kind of putting the weight of all the other bad B plots on its shoulders. I think
Which
that's
you
what I'm
shouldn't do.
doing.
You should not do that.
I guess I shouldn't
because
do that.
in reality, it's 2 scenes in this
I'm a
episode.
little biased.
It's
Yeah.
2 scenes in this episode.
Yeah, I know.
Like, not even really counting the end when Vincent Price pulls up with the
It's
bus.
just so obvious. It's just so obviously like cutting away from the action. And I know that's the point, but it just it's like either Ty and Marge, and this is not. I'm not going to say this is a problem because the times have changed since 1999. If this was to happen now, I would probably be much more offended that it's like, what, well, Marge and Lisa can't go to a football game?
I was thinking about that. Like, why not just bring the whole family?
Yeah, but 1999, different. Women were still portrayed as being, even though they weren't, but they were still portrayed as, they don't like football, stay in the kitchen, do the dishes.
I don't know if it was quite that bad in 1999. I don't think it would have been absurd for Marge and Lisa to come to the Super Bowl.
But I feel like they were still stereotyped that way on television to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. 99 is kind of late. It's only 17 years ago.
Yeah, we've come a long way.
Have we come a long way? All right. Well, maybe
Black
we
president, Facebook. It's all.
You know what?
It's all
Facebook
there.
really changed everything.
Just connect the dots.
That's all it is. He's Peconing again, everybody.
Only like 3 people remember. That's when he does the thing, but it's thing. Also, I guess the 3 listeners are the Vulture from Looney Tunes.
He posts a lot on our Reddit.
When am I gonna get that bird? We know.
Bird.
What did you
Wait,
think?
I meant rabbit. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
I'm sure
none of this matters. No one is listening. We're cutting all of this. Do you want to talk about the main plot now? I think we're done with the egg magic thing.
Yeah, and the main plot, of course, starts with another non sequitur, the classic first act non sequitur, and this one opens up with the field trip to the post office.
Yes.
I love when The Simpsons just does their weird absurdist, and absurdist is almost too heavy a word considering the Vincent Price stuff later.
Yeah.
But their weird Simpsons take on a mundane yet universally understood institution. Whenever they do this, it's great, and it's surprising that they didn't really do a post office scene until season 10. And this one felt very reminiscent to me. This felt like a classic Simpsons thing where they go to a post office. What are some weird things we can play off of at the post office?
Right.
It kind of reminds me of the Box Factory, but the Box Factory isn't quite as universal as the post office.
I don't know. I used to love my boyhood trips to the
always
Box
go to
Factory.
the Box Factory, but there was so many just little touches that I thought like that felt like at home to me. That felt like a classic Simpsons thing to go to an institution. And just like a slightly askew take.
Well, and I liked it starts and Skinner is like, isn't everyone excited to see how their mail is handled?
And it just cuts to a blank stare.
Everyone is just staring blankly at him, and Lisa's like, well, I guess I did until we came last year.
Yeah, the timing was perfect of the blank stare.
Yeah, that was really good. And what I really liked, we'll talk individually about moments in the post office thing, but you pointed out it's like a stereotypical non sequitur first opening. And it is, but compare it to like last week when we watched the prankster rap episode with the rap thing. That took up the entire first act. This takes up maybe 2 to 3 minutes of the first act. It's just to get a coupon book into Homer's hands so that he can get to the tire factory and meet Wally Kogan and get the whole Super Bowl thing going.
You could count the mechanic stuff in there as well.
Well, I wouldn't, because I think that's different.
We've had this conversation a few times. I disagree. I think the classic era Simpsons also. Certain episodes, sometimes it'd be quicker, sometimes they'd be less quick. I think certain episodes did have most of a first act to get to where they were going.
This is an episode, it's The Simpsons go to the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
That premise is in by the time we end the first
good point.
act.
That's a very good point.
Last week, we weren't in the... I don't know what the hell the premise was. It was either rapping or kidnapping, and we were not locked into one or the other.
I'm not sure. We haven't watched enough for me to really draw a line at what season, but definitely the HD era, you're right. And they almost have more of a... Kubrick Vietnam movie. Full Metal Jacket. They really have more of like a Full Metal Jacket structure where it's like
two different things.
It's almost like a halfway point where the episode just takes a sharp left turn and is something completely different.
And one of them is much better than the other.
I feel like a lot of the new episodes do have that more than the, let's call it the classic non sequitur half a first act. First act is getting into it. Yeah. You're right. It is different, and this is Purgatorio. It feels more classic than Inferno.
But there's a lot that we did like in the post office piece.
Yeah, before we get into the individual jokes, what did you think of the mailman character? He was a character we've never seen before. He looked a little bit like old Cliff Clavin.
He is apparently supposed to be Burl Ives. Because Stephen Moore, who directed this episode, is a big Burl Ives fan.
All right,
according to Wikipedia.
that makes more sense. I was wondering why it wasn't a Springfield regular we hadn't seen before, like Hans Moleman or Gil. they would have fit.
I feel
in
like
that role.
nowadays that's exactly what it would have been.
But even
It probably would have been
season
Gil.
10, I could have seen them doing Gil. Or,
Yeah.
I don't know. Just I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
What did you think of he explains the zip codes and somebody asks, or Lisa asks, what the other extra 4 digits
Citizen
are?
relocation codes.
Yeah, I like that because it's dark. It's like it is kind of scary that the government probably has some kind of plan for doing that. I don't think it would be as overt as zip code.
Yeah.
And I like where they cut away to the control room and they're like, she knows too much. Should we flood the chamber?
Yes.
And then I also really like the guy going, let's get lunch.
just get lunch. Yeah,
It was
I like that
That
part.
was kind of absurdist.
Yeah.
I like that.
I didn't love when he said, "This is your U.S. post office," and Bart goes, "It's ours," and he starts just like writing on the walls and messing stuff up. I was like, "That's an easy joke."
I didn't love it. It was a character based. I love like giving Bart this that inner chaos that Bart can unleash
Right.
sometimes, where he's just waiting to just go crazy.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it was
yeah.
a good reason for him to do it. Like it wasn't out of nowhere. It didn't make me laugh, but,
No, but,
I liked how quick
Bart's
Bart was.
not writing on the walls at home. It's
Yeah,
not like,
yeah.
I guess he doesn't have to
true.
live at the post office. in the
That's
same,
true.
Same measure.
I don't know. There's something to like Bart's eagerness. The way it was played, it just
Bart's
I
very
liked
eager
it.
to destroy, and I
Yeah.
do like that.
It just played well for me.
How about this gag at the post office? Let's not bring things down too much, but they talk about the violent postman, and they're like, "Oh, that went out with the Macarena," and Principal Skinner says, "I'm just glad I work at an elementary school."
I'm thinking
This is post Columbine.
Yeah, I was thinking can't
That's
remember
the
any
big reference.
school shootings besides Columbine around that time. So
Yeah, that
that's
was the big one.
that's
but
a
now
pretty-
we've
that's
had
pretty dark. Yeah, now-
many school shootings.
There's been
since.
4 since we started recording this episode.
No, I don't like that. I don't like that joke at all. Cut all that.
All right. I work in a school and
Yeah.
I literally sit at the front desk when the elevators open. They moved me. We moved buildings, and I lost my sweet corner office desk. And now I'm just the only room they had was to put me in front of the elevators, which is annoying for a million reasons. I try.
I like to think that you're literally right in front of the elevator. Like it opens up and someone steps into your
It's
desk.
almost like that.
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
95% of my day now, I have to stop what I'm doing and give somebody the Wi-Fi password.
Nice.
That's where I'm sitting.
Very good.
Anyway, if there was to be a school shooting in my school, I would be the first. I would be the guy who dies that gives everybody the heads up that there's a school shooting in progress.
Oh, Jesus.
And there's nowhere for me to go. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting to
And
get
you're
shot in
the
the
face.
face.
You're the face of the school to them.
I'm going to be the first person to get shot.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was as funny as a joke about
Yeah,
school shootings
I
can
liked
be.
it. I
It
liked
was cute.
Yeah.
It's
It was a cute Columbine
It
joke.
was a cute Columbine joke, I guess. It's just depressing that 17 years later, with like school shootings are rampant.
Yeah. No,
And
they seem
that
to-
joke rings true as much as today as it was in '99.
So as I said how much I like the institutional jokes that they do with the post office. I think they continued that trend with the mechanic office. So basically, everybody gets to choose a piece of mail that didn't
Undeliverable mail from the dead
mail.
letter office, yeah.
And a few gags that did really nothing for me. Ralph
Yeah,
gets some
Wiggum
drugs.
gets some drugs,
Millhouse
and-
gets his Santa letter.
Right, they were all
Bart
fine.
gets a value pack coupon. Even their take on value pack, I wouldn't say it was as askew and absurd as their take on the post office or the mechanics. But they did a good job of like playing up the idea of this very working class thing that we can all remember and relate to.
Getting coupons
the value
in the mail.
pack.
I did like
the 2 shitty pizzas.
Yeah, I like that one where Homer's like, "Oh, 2 pizzas at Doughy," and Lisa's like, "But Doughy has terrible pizzas." Yeah, but there's 2.
Yeah. See, like
Classic
that
Homer.
that kind of stuff where they're like tying into these things. It's observational comedy. It's what Seinfeld does.
There's some satire to it, but also Homer would obviously be excited
and
for
it's
2
something
shitty pizzas.
Yeah, it's something we can all relate to and go, yeah, that's a good point. Why do we want to? So
Yeah.
that again, a very purgatorial episode in that it had.
I think it's better than a Purgatory episode, but we'll get there at the end.
I mean, it reminds me so much of the good years because it's so close to them. It has so much of that in its DNA.
Definitely.
More, I would say it's more classic than post-classic for sure.
For sure. But
so-
let's talk about the mechanic scene.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
one of the things is to get Homer's tires balanced at the mechanic, and he takes it in. And I like there's this whole scam scene, which apparently is based on something that happened to Mike Scully's brother at a Firestone.
I would think it would happen to everybody who has a car.
I'm sure. Where they say, "Oh, I can't even. These wheels can't even be balanced. Legally, I can't even let you drive out of here."
So
I like the
obnoxious.
whole mechanic scam. It's not exactly new ground, even in '99.
Didn't do too much for me.
You know what a big piece of it was? It's the who's doing the voice? Is that Hank Azaria's? Like,
Yeah,
this guy
it was not quite his
voice.
Charles Bronson.
Right.
It was not quite that, but it was there.
Not regular sarcastic voiced guy.
Yeah, it was almost like a
more nasally.
non-sarcastic Charles Bronson.
Yeah, there you go. Non-sarcastic Charles Bronson, our favorite Simpsons character, created pre-millennium. Yeah, and it worked for me. And then, Homer is stuck waiting in the waiting room, and that's where he meets Wally Kogan, voiced by Fred Willard,
Right.
who we talked about at length in the opening of this episode.
Yeah, so I would say, again, they do a great job of portraying something like a slightly askew version of something we can relate to. So I love the waiting room. It's funny how every office/waiting room in a mechanics looks exactly the same.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know if that's just
They all
part
have
of
Trout Fever magazine.
I don't know if that's part of the structure of having like a warehouse type building with a little room on the side, but they all look exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I like that, but I also like the stuff where they play it up. Like I could see that being based on a real story because that does happen with mechanics.
Sure.
But the idea of them all just like pointing and laughing,
that, yeah.
that's something that wouldn't happen in real life. It's over the top, but it fits. It's like
Right.
they're just upping it to 11. It's not just 21. It's upping it to 11, and
Right.
it's just so funny.
And it was the button on the scene. Like
Yes,
that's, after
exactly.
that, we cut
Yeah.
away and we're not at the
Yeah.
mechanics anymore. So that worked for me.
And I think when you sometimes going to 21 could be very funny, but I think in general it is funnier to take something relatable and absurd and just putting it a little bit past that absurd level. And I think that's
Right.
what a lot of classic Simpsons did very well with certain aspects, especially with these institutional ideas.
Yeah, and I like the idea that Wally is explaining, like, oh, they suckered me in for, it wasn't winterizing, it was something else. But then Homer is like, haha, you're even worse than I am, although winter's coming. And he
Yeah, he
worries,
actually
like,
gets
maybe I
worried,
should
yeah.
get it too, because Homer's a big dope.
Yeah, that was
but in keeping with his character, Big Dope,
that-
not like later
that
season Big Dope.
That Big Dope Homer was much better than I think there were a few hints of jerk-ass Homer in this episode, especially
were.
relating to Marge.
There were.
We'll get into this. He's looking at the coupons, and Marge is excited. She sees one for free foot
we missed
pain.
it. Yeah, we didn't talk
and
about
Homer
this.
says, "Oh, that's just a scam to get you in there so they can cure your foot pain."
And then Marge hobbles
worded,
away.
yeah, perfectly worded line. But watching
Yep.
Marge hobble away in pain,
Yeah.
that's jerk-ass Homer because there's no good justification for Homer to not see her in pain and not want to help her.
I guess you're right, but did you not like the joke? Did you not like the scene?
I love the line, "That's just a scam to get you in so that they can cure your foot pain."
But you didn't like actually seeing Marge
I don't like
in
it.
pain?
I have trouble swallowing that Homer would watch Marge in pain and be ignorant to that.
To me, it's not. He's just an idiot because he's ignorant of her having pain. Like it's
But
not. It's
so
not as
obvious that she's in
jerk-assy
pain.
as
All
me.
right, so there was 3 instances that I thought Homer was being a jerk-ass, and
Okay.
the first 2 were related to Marge. The third one was to Bart, and then as I watched it, because I remembered the joke coming, I saw it coming, I was like, oh, here's more jerk-ass Homer. And then when I watched it play out, I realized it wasn't jerk-ass Homer, and I think it's a good way to contrast the two. So this is much later in the episode. Dan Marino throws a pass to Bart.
Yes.
Bart's really excited. He's like, oh my God, this is the greatest day of my life. I'm about to catch a pass from Dan
Yep.
Marino. Homer intercepts it
Yes.
and takes it away from Bart. That's a very asshole thing to do to
I
your
don't think
son,
that's jerk-ass.
but it's not jerk-ass
No,
because it's rooted in Homer's character. He's excited to catch the pass.
Yes.
He's not even thinking about Bart.
And on top of that, Homer immediately gets his
And he
comeuppance
gets
when
his
Dan
comeuppance, yeah.
Marino's goons attack Homer and break
but
his
even,
spine.
even comeuppance aside, Homer's doing it not to be he's not trying to hurt Bart. He's just more so
Exactly.
excited about this pass. So compare that to
He's
what
oblivious as opposed to malevolent.
Right, exactly. Now I wouldn't call Homer malevolent with the Marge foot pain joke.
No.
But I don't buy that he'd be oblivious because with the football one, it's not that he's ignoring Bart's excitement. It's that his excitement trumps Bart's excitement.
Right.
Whereas there's no good reason for him to ignore her foot pain.
Maybe it's not a good reason,
It's-
but I think he's just too
Like,
interested in his
here's,
coupon
Here's
book.
how I could see it
I
being
think he's
less
just focused on
jerk-ass.
that.
I could see him having some kind of foot pain that's much less severe, like a hangnail or not even a hangnail, something so mundane, and he
Right.
wants to use the coupon for that. He's
See,
like,
to me, that makes it even more jerk-ass.
yeah,
because then
as
it's
I say it out
completely
loud,
selfish.
It's more self. I guess you're right. I guess really, I just don't buy that. I could see him being oblivious to Bart because he's so excited. I can't see him when Marge hobbles away. I can't justify
okay.
Homer saying, "Oh, yeah." I mean,
the
this
coupon,
is really nitpicking.
It is,
the
but
levels
I
of jerk-assness.
want to get into this.
Yeah,
This is
sure.
good stuff. When the coupon is like a free foot pain analysis, and he says, "Oh, that's just to get you in there to cure your foot pain." It's not. To me, it didn't read as much like I don't want Marge to cure her foot pain as it is. I think these like foot pain doctors are scam
all a
artists,
scam.
and they're gonna rack it up all the charges after you get in there, which is what exactly
All
happens
right.
to him at the mechanic.
That makes sense. I mean, Yeah, I could see him just being anti-institution, anti-establishment. I mean, pretty much that's the entire right wing. Pretty much anybody voting for Republicans now seem to have this like natural aversion to anything government. So I could see that being like in there. Yeah, you're right. I just really have trouble swallowing the idea that Marge is so clearly in pain.
I understand that.
I feel like if she didn't hobble away, there'd be no joke. But then I would swallow Homer's jerkassdom.
Right. In the pantheon of jerkass Homer, this is pretty slight.
The levels of jerkassdom.
Right. This is like a 0.01 on the jerkass scale. Which goes from zero.
No, you're right. You're right that
million.
his aversion to doctors and scams and stuff that does somewhat justify.
Yeah, I think that sold it for me.
I can't remember what the second Marge. There was another Marge. Oh, the other jerk-ass one was where Marge was talking about the Bolshoi Ballet, and Homer was just like, yeah, I don't care.
Right.
That felt like
that
there was
was
no
jerk-assy.
Yeah, there was no justification again with the. He wants to catch the pass. He hates doctors. He's just being a dick to her.
He was just being a jerk, and my only note on that scene was poor Marge.
Yeah.
So yes, for that one I agree with you. But Wally and Homer, they leave the mechanics and they go to Moe's to kind of just kill some time while they're waiting for the cars to get done.
Before we get that,
Okay.
Just the introduction of Wally, he really reminded me of Jack Lemmon's pretzel character, and even a little bit of John Waters' character. He just, I don't know if it's that like homespun. I don't want to say country, but like this likable character.
Yeah, he's kind of the midpoint between like a Jack Lemmon and a John Waters.
Yeah,
he's like lemon water.
Yeah,
he's refreshing in an otherwise
it's country time.
There's nothing close to lemonade in it.
Especially Jack Lemmon, but there were lines or inflections or something that was like that also reminded me of John Waters. I guess it's just well,
he was
classic,
wearing a Hawaiian shirt, which I think
maybe
was
that
John
was
Waters.
Maybe it was subliminal. I just the idea. I guess it's just. He was similar in type to that kind of guest star too, like as somebody who's past their prime and coming in,
put upon everyman salesman. I guess.
Yeah, exactly, and just I think the friendliness too. I think it's very rare to have a very friendly character.
Sure.
And maybe those two came to mind immediately because they are two of the friendliest and nicest.
They are.
In a specific way. Larry Burns is also funny, but in a completely different way.
Right.
Not friendly, not funny. So that just the whole time I thought like I was watching Lemon Water. It was a good way to put it.
I love that lemon water.
Just thought I'd note that.
Very good note. But let's talk about, I like the bit, the Atlanta Falcons bit.
Yeah, classic bit. That's the one thing I always remember from this episode.
I think a lot of people are with you on that. Obviously, they didn't know who was going to be in the Super Bowl, so when they animated it, they intentionally made it, that's the joke. Like,
and
we can fill it in later.
So Moe uses his beer mug to hide his mouth during it, and then I like that they each pass the same mug. Rather, they each have their own mug.
I don't know why they passed the same mug.
It's almost like the talking stick in either in Native American circles or in like group therapy where they give you the stick. It was weird that they were like passing this like this.
It has to be this mug for some reason.
Baton,
the overdub mug.
The overdub mug.
I like that.
I like that.
But then I like that it escalates to, I hope President Clinton is there with his wife Hillary.
Perfect, because Homer Clinton was right in the middle of his impeachment trials, and then because the impeachment trials were because he had affairs, so it made sense that Hillary might leave him.
Yep.
They didn't realize that she was planning 16 years in advance, and she knew Bill Clinton would be great on the great stump speeches. That's such a great bit, and the escalation works perfectly. I mean, maybe it was just perfect time and place, because maybe that wouldn't have worked if Clinton wasn't in the who he was and when he was. It's such a great. That's one of the all-time classic gags.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it's one of the first. I think a lot of sitcoms, I think 30 Rock's done it, maybe Family Guy. I feel like I've seen other shows at this point where they dub in, if not Super Bowl, they dubbed in something that they didn't know. They wouldn't know
at production for later to the air date.
I think 30 Rock's definitely done it, but this might have been the first. If not,
it's the first I can think of. And it's one that, like you said, when I think of this episode, this is the first scene I think of. It's the Atlanta Falcons.
There's also another
I'll never forget who was in Super Bowl 99.
There's another joke in here that I didn't remember and I found very funny, where Moe was complaining about bye weeks. He's like, bye weeks. Who needs him? Some certain player. He never had a bye week, and he died.
And he's dead. Maybe that's not such a bad thing.
Yeah, I like that. I like it because it was a very funny Moe line, and it also reminds me of people who just have to criticize everything just to criticize. They even start podcasts.
I hate those people who just really nitpick like this one line in The Simpsons. Is it jerk ass or is it not?
Give it a rest.
I hate those guys.
Madden.
Oh boy.
Wally, I think it's in Moe's, maybe it's in the mechanics, but he mentions he's a travel agent and he hands out his card.
Okay.
It says Springfield Travel Agency, and the motto is "Now get out of here."
Yeah,
that's
I like
great.
that.
That's a nice little line.
That's a good catchphrase for
that would be great for a
agent.
real travel agent.
If only they still
existed. There was a travel agency on my corner. It's now maybe the best pizzeria in the neighborhood. So
Really?
good riddance.
Wait,
Now get out of here. Decora Pizza.
Decora.
Please shop at Decora.com. They provide apps.
Watch
But
Decora.com.
in this case, actual advertisers.
Decora.com is just a violent pornography website.
Not that it's violent pornography.
Oh yeah, it's real bad.
It's literally they recreate battles from the Civil War, except they all have sex with each other.
Finally, my fetish has been realized. General Ambrose Burnside gently caresses Robert E. Lee's hair. It's brother against brother, all right.
That's gotta be a thing. It's just a Civil War reenactment where at the end all the men just have a big orgy. That's gotta be a thing.
The blue and the gray and the spurts of white. All right, it's time to move on.
Oh boy. Hey.
So we
could use our phony guns as clubs, as dildos.
Oh boy. So we get locked into what's going to happen here is Wally runs a travel agency. If Homer can fill a bus, he can go to the Super Bowl for free. So we got a couple of scenes of Homer trying to get people onto the Super Bowl bus. I like he calls Lenny and he's like, "Come on, Lenny, come on!" And Lenny keeps going,
Yeah.
And then finally Lenny just goes, and Homer just hangs up like Lenny's in, and now Carl will be in.
I thought that Lenny,
good voice
the fact that it was
performance.
the same sound effect over and over, and Harry Shearer's delivery, that made me laugh. Sometimes I don't like Lenny. In this case, I loved it.
Yeah, not Lenny. I did kind of like, right after that moment, Lisa lists off, "Wow, Dad, you have a good crowd. You got comic book guy, squeaky voice teen, Bumblebee Man," and she kind of named all the characters who don't have names.
Yeah,
I thought that was a cute.
I like that. Yes,
Maybe a little bit fan servicey, like winky winky, but
hey,
it
the
worked for
the fans earned it. All right.
I deserve a little service every once in a while. Okay.
You could go get service at the Battle of Antietam. If you
Yeah, I
want.
bet I could. That'll make your bull run.
I was just thinking back to like 1863 or 4 when the Battle of Antietam was.
Yeah.
You have hundreds of thousands of men dying, and I wonder if one of them was just like, I wonder if in 150 years someone will make some kind of orgy joke about this
On some sort of DVR radio program.
That man was way ahead of his time before a
was.
cannonball took off his head
Yeah.
and then a bunch of other men raped his
He was
dead
a time
body.
traveler. Maybe he knew about the Battle of Antietam from this podcast. And he went.
Wasn't that plot of Kate and Leopold with
Yep, that
Hugh
was
Jackman and
the
Meg
exact plot of Kate and Leopold.
The Simpsons
Jackman.
podcast, the gay orgy, it was all in there.
It's all there.
You don't know because you didn't watch the
You
movie
didn't
from
see
beginning
it.
to end. You
No,
should have
did
stuck
not.
with it.
It was in the post-credit scene.
I remember, tangent, we had this screenwriting teacher who was like a failed screenwriter, and he was just so
Okay.
miserable. And I think he was a drunk. I think I saw him one time muttering to himself drunk on a park bench.
All right.
And he was always
Good
telling,
man to learn from.
And he was like, he came in really excited one day. He was like really excited, and he's just like, I came up with this great idea for a script this morning. I jotted down like 10 pages of notes. I'm really excited, and he's just like pitching it to us because I guess he had nobody else to talk to, and he like we're just like sophomores.
This is a downer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's just so excited about it. He goes, yeah, I just like the idea of this pirate, and he goes into a whirlpool, and he comes out into the future, and it's actually a romantic comedy where he meets this woman, and they fall in love, and it's like kind of he's a fish out of water because he's a pirate, and everybody's just like, that's Kate and Leopold, and it's like, what? What's that? And like it's a movie starring Hugh Jackman. He's like,
Yeah.
who's that? Because it's like this is 2002, and
Yeah.
and like you just see the light in his eyes disappear. It was tragic. It was hysterical, and now it's an extra tragic because now at the time it was funny because we were young kids, and now we've all turned into that guy, or most
Yeah,
of
right,
us
right,
have.
right. Yeah.
And now it's just like, oh, that's me.
That's
but the
my
idea
life.
of him pitching
I'm
this
muttering on the park
like
bench.
that could be a Simpsons joke to me. Like
Yeah.
he was pitching this idea, and it was Billy and the Conestosaurus.
That's exactly what I was thinking of when you were
No,
talking
it was
about it.
it was like that in real life.
Yeah.
It was really funny.
Nice.
What did you? So they all meet up at the bus stop.
Yep.
Not their bus stop, not our
Not
bus
our
stop.
bus stop.
To get on the bus.
You're talking about the bus stop.
They all get on the bus, and the bus takes off, and Rudy starts chasing
Yes.
after it, and it's pretty much Rudy from Rudy.
It
Sean
was,
Astin.
yeah, he even had, it wasn't a Notre Dame jacket, but it said like Irish on it
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
And he's like, wait, guys, what I don't have in strength, I make up for in speed. And they like close the door
No,
on
he
him.
said in obnoxiousness, which was weird because I never remember Rudy being obnoxious. I don't know what that joke
did he
exactly
say
was.
obnoxiousness?
I think he did.
Oh, okay, I missed that. But yeah, I thought that was really
He was
funny.
a perfect. Mo was the perfect character to go. Yeah,
Yeah.
beat it, Rudy. We don't need
Get out of here, Rudy.
Yeah, Mo was perfect for that.
I like that.
It was a nice. broad parody of a very popular movie that it was. Again, it was just to 11. It wasn't to 21. It was just funny enough. Rudy chasing.
It makes sense. You got a football episode. You got the bus. Like it, why not do a Rudy
1999,
joke?
Rudy was still pretty prominent.
I think it came out in 93.
In the cultural, but it just kind of stuck for some reason. It's not a particularly great movie. I haven't watched the whole thing, but it stuck around for a while culturally.
People know Rudy.
They reacted
to this day, I think.
I guess it was before Samwise, so that was Sean Astin's.
His post Goonies, pre Lord of the Rings. His
we
fame
all had
was
that.
Rudy.
We all had that phase in life.
That time.
Post Goonies, pre Lord of the Rings.
Hello, this is Vincent Price.
Oh, it's Vincent Price. I thought he was dead.
You should know the grave could never tame me.
Mr. Price, I loved you in The Abominable Doctor.
If you are calling about the missing feet, leave your address, and the replacement feet will be rushed to you by my grandson, Jody.
So that's it for the first act, and then we get back.
They get off the bus. They leave the bus a mess.
I like there's a quick they're partying on the bus and there's a lot of debauchery happening on the bus. I like that one of them yanks away Reverend Lovejoy's collar and just immediately all of his clothes fall off as if the collar's tying everything together. I like that.
That's a funny take on priest collars.
Right. They get off the bus and Wally says to the bus driver, "Oh, sorry about what we did to your bathroom," and she just goes, "What bathroom?"
Perfect
line.
Yeah,
great way to end the whole sequence.
My
I
tool
liked
shed.
Yeah, I mean there wasn't a lot to say about the bus. There were some funny jokes. They mostly just drinking.
Yeah, it didn't do too much. The what bathroom was the best. So then they go to the tailgating part where everybody's set up.
That's when the parade of guest stars begins.
Well, speaking of bathrooms, the first gag is there's a porta chapel because Flanders needed somewhere to go to mass.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's probably a real thing.
I think they actually do have those portable chapels. Yeah. I don't think that Rosie Greer is the one who's performing services, but
I'm that's got to be a thing. Anywhere there's people, there's God.
That's true.
Just getting real for a second.
Well,
have you atoned for your sins, Dan?
Nope. There is no God.
That's true. So right now, God's up there like, oh,
why don't Jack and Dan believe in me?
God is actually
got a real inferiority complex.
God is the vulture from Looney Tunes. Think I'll create man today. What could go wrong? I'm sure they'll all get along just fine. They'll be happy that they exist. I think they'd be very grateful for that.
So Grufik is God? That's what it sounds like.
9/11 didn't happen. I know. I was watching from the top. I saw the depth charges from the basement.
Oh, God. I got nothing to add to that. I got nothing. But yeah, there's a parade of guest stars that happen outside of the Super Bowl. We get a couple of footballers. We had Rosie Greer.
So this was early in the Simpsons run. This was right around where they did start doing the parade of guest stars. I mean, they did in the classic era too, with Johnny Carson, the Krusty episode.
Johnny Carson episode. I mean, that was intentional because it was about producing a TV spectacular.
But they had episodes with
this was
with
a TV
runs.
spectacular with a bunch of guest stars.
But I would say, compared to many of the ones we've seen, this one, almost all of the guest stars were fine. Yeah.
I agree.
There were no clunkers. There were no Yao Ming. Sorry, Yao.
There were no
very
Yao
likable
Mings.
guy. You did a horrible job.
He did. But Troy Aikman, I like that he is doing character art and he's obsessed with dune buggies for some reason.
I feel like that's more of a.
That's really funny.
It's funny that's Troy Aikman, but it's really just kind of a joke on caricatures and how
right.
they.
I'm assuming that real
the
Troy
same
Aikman
thing
is
with
not
Lisa,
obsessed with
didn't
dune
they?
buggies.
Like, when they draw Lisa with the braces, don't they say?
When Lisa the Beauty Queen?
Yeah.
When she gets the character artist?
Is that somebody does like they do a character? Isn't there a line like that? Where like, all girls love roller skates or something like that.
Oh, you're right. I think there is a line like that. Like, you like roller skating? No, all little girls like roller skating. Huh. I never put that together.
Same joke.
It's exactly
Except
the same
they have
joke.
Troy Aikman doing it.
Well, that made it better.
And paid him $1 million. Hey, read this old joke we did. Set me down by that boat show. I liked in that tailgating scene too. They go, "Wow, it's the NFL's oldest player," and it's a really old man, decrepit, and he's like, "I'm 53."
I'm 53.
That was a little ahead of its time, considering that we know a lot more about how
concussions
football
and all
just
that.
kills people.
Yeah, basically. We all saw that Will Smith movie.
I didn't.
Jack, I didn't see that.
I saw Men in Black for what it's worth.
I also saw Men in Black. I said, was that about
I'm
concussions?
sorry. Was that your auntie? Check out 90s Percentile. Didn't plug it in the intro.
Hey now. I thought we'd plug it at the end. We will.
You should. It's our new podcast. We put a lot of work into it. We probably should have advertised it at the top of the show.
We probably should have advertised it at the top of the show.
Listen to Men in Black references like that.
We should do a Men in Black Saint Points, actually. I think it's on Netflix.
Ooh,
I would love to do that.
I know Men in Black 2 is.
2 is definitely on there. I think.
Maybe we do that. Maybe we'll do a post-classic Men in Black.
Ooh. Well, Okay, I could do 2. I've only seen it like once.
I've seen one hundreds of times.
I've seen one hundreds of times.
It's a short movie. So.
I actually really like Men in Black 3.
I think it's compared to 2, it's good. I don't.
Compared to 2, it's much
I don't
better.
know. I don't understand why it got as much praise as it did. It has.
not as good as the first
It
one,
has
but
no third act.
It's fun. All right,
But
whatever.
we'll save that for our sync points and or 90th percentile.
We'll save that for
anything but our Simpsons podcast, basically.
Is talking about Men in Black not relevant to the Super Bowl episode of The Simpsons?
By the way, check out my Civil War porno, Men in Gray.
Oh yeah, who have sex with each other?
Hey, look at that alien. Let's go.
Let's go have sex with it.
That's a Dirty Work reference. Also 90s.
About Men in Black.
Listen to our 90s percentile podcast, people. It's on iTunes.
We're just losing our
Follow
minds
us
now.
at 90s percentile.
Yes. I like that we're just devolving into plugging the show. Another show during this show while we still have lots of time left. Whatever.
It's very Kaufman-esque. It's very Charlie Kaufman. He actually wrote. He scripts all of this. This is all scripted. We don't ad-lib at all.
We unearthed all this from a tomb that Andy Kaufman left.
I'm talking about Charlie Kaufman.
Nope. They're brother and sister. Did you know that? One of them had a sex change.
Which one?
You have to decide. It's up to you, Jack.
So we get to the heart of the plot here, where they go and they show the guy their tickets.
Yes.
Turns out their tickets are counterfeit. They
were printed
they
on
don't have
some
a
sort of cracker.
hologram, and they're printed on some sort of cracker.
There's no team as the
Yeah,
Spongos.
I thought it was very quick exposition. So now you have to have Homer explain to everybody that they don't have tickets, and they do it perfectly. Where Homer goes, "All right, they're gonna kill us. Let me see if I can word this the right way, guys." And then they can tell immediately
have
from
the
his
tickets.
inflection. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was perfect. It makes sense because
Right.
you can just tell you know when bad news is coming, and then they beat the shit out of Homer. I thought that was a great way of just getting the exposition out in one quick funny line.
Agreed. And I also like that they had the scene before that where Homer insults the scalper and is like, it's trying to sell scalped tickets. We have our own tickets. And then immediately after that is when Homer finds out they don't have tickets and he tries to go back to the scalper, and the scalper obviously turns his back on him. It's good. It's a good way to get rid of, why don't they just buy scalped tickets?
And they do
because they couldn't.
They do a 180 where the scalper, he's supposed to be the shady, greasy. Not greasy. What is
Weasley.
No, what's the word? Not greasy, but sleazy.
Sleazy.
Yeah, he's greasy. He's frying pan.
He's frying pan, crundy, Sunday crundy.
No, because he's sleazy, and they do a 180 where he's
right, where my feelings are hurt, and so he
it
turns
is
his back
fine,
on Homer. Yeah, it's just a good way to get rid of the plot hole of why don't they just buy tickets?
Why was Homer's shirt green? I get that they were traveling, they were at a tropical.
They're on vacation, bro. I wear a green shirt on vacation.
It was just weird to me that they went out of their way to just make a shirt green.
It was a little odd.
Yeah.
Then we come back from the act break, and depending on where you watch this episode, things might have been different.
Yeah. If you've seen it in syndication, the scene is completely cut.
In syndication, I think I don't know if it's totally cut. I think they may have edited it somehow.
All right.
But we did watch the DVD has the original version, which is what we watched. It is a Super Bowl commercial, a stereotypical Super Bowl commercial where a guy pulls up to a gas station in the middle of the desert.
Very slow and quiet, wide open desert.
And it's one of those
middle
commercials
nowhere.
where you have no idea what the product is that's being advertised. Three women come out and start washing the car.
Three
and then,
scantily clad,
beautiful women, and then they zoom in on a cross around one of their necks, and it's a commercial for the Catholic Church. We've made a few changes.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of controversy about this when this episode first aired.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Showing nuns,
according to Wikipedia,
showing slutty nuns.
I don't even know were they supposed to. I don't know if they were supposed to be nuns. I think it was
I
just
thought they were
like
supposed to be nuns.
just the fact that it was the Catholic Church and it's
I
just
think
lascivious
I feel
women.
like they were supposed to be nuns, but maybe you're right.
I don't remember, but
I mean, look, the thing, on its surface, it's a spoof of beer commercials, especially, but Super Bowl commercials.
Super Bowl commercials where you have no idea what it is.
They use attractive women to cater to guys. First of all, second of all, the cinematic quality of the wide open landscape. What's going on? It was very. It felt they did a great job. It felt very 80s, 90s commercial, especially Super Bowl commercial event
even
commercials.
Today they do things like that.
They're still similar. I feel like they've had to have changed in some way. But maybe we'll live tweet the Super Bowl commercials.
Oh, maybe we probably won't.
We will have barbecue sauce all over our fingers.
Yes, we will.
It felt very of commercials of that time. It was spoofing that, it's spoofing Super Bowl commercials, spoofing beer commercials with the women in cleavage. It's spoofing the Catholic Church trying to make itself hip again. Portlandia did a perfect job with it in a recent season with Ed Bigley Jr. It was the exact same joke where they're just trying to get the young people to like them.
Right. I mean, it's funny too because why would the Catholic Church have a commercial at the Super Bowl? Why would it be this?
Yeah.
Like, why would this commercial be for a church? It's funny, and I get why they got their knickers in a twist.
Yeah, I'm surprised, not surprised. Like, it's not that controversial. This is post South Park. it's pretty tame by today's standards. It's like Friday the 13th Part 1.
It's post like the first 2-3 seasons of South Park.
But that was when South Park was, the movie is already out, or
the
no, it
movie
wasn't out.
Well, the movie
would
be coming out that summer.
But South Park had already made its name for being very controversial. Maybe not on religion. They were doing more fart jokes and dick jokes. But South Park's also on cable and not on network television, which was more of a distinction at that time. I could see it being a controversy. I could see it being not that big of one. It obviously blew over pretty quickly.
Well, it didn't, because in the syndicated version, it's still... I don't know if this scene is totally cut or just...
Oh, really?
I think they edited it out. It might just be a different type of church or something.
I mean, it's just... It's not remembered as a controversy. Maybe even if the cut's still less...
I didn't know anything about it until I saw it on Wikipedia
I would
page.
say it's less notable than, say, the Puerto Rican Day Parade episode of Seinfeld. That also is a syndication cut, I think, or they just don't show it.
They've now... they're showing it again, but they cut out the part where Kramer is burning the Puerto Rican flag. Even though it was not intentional.
That controversy still, I think, seems to be a little bit... People remember that a little bit more, I would say.
People probably remember that a little bit more because that was the last actual episode of Seinfeld before the finale.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And it's a good episode, too.
Anyway, I could see why there's a controversy. I could see why I don't think it's a big deal. I can see why some people do. I can see why it didn't become the biggest deal. Fortunately, there was a Super Bowl controversy just a couple of years later. Boobgate. Wardrobe malfunction.
Yes,
I missed it because it was one of the first times we were playing poker during halftime, and it was one of the first times I won a huge pot, and I was literally scooping up the chips, and everybody goes, "Whoa, boob!" And I was like, "What?"
That was right around. We had gotten a DVR like right around that time, like right before that, and I think it was one of the most DVR'd and rewatched moments because everyone was sad in 2004.
Everybody's seeing that 15 second. Yeah, I mean, if you want to see boobs,
there's boobs everywhere. Like you just have to type boob into anything, and you get pornography.
Just say it out loud.
I'm saying boo, and my phone is like, "You want boobs?" And it's just like showing
just
them to me.
Just go to like Colonial Gettysburg.
Just do it.
Just say boob, and you will have so many like overweight man boobs in your face. One big sweaty
more than
Civil
you
War
can shake
orgy.
a bayonet at.
They give a whole new meaning to the word blue.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
As in the past participle of blow job.
Oh, I see. I thought you meant blue, like it gets a little blue.
Like
material.
No, I meant blowjobs.
Okay, fair enough.
Come in the mouth.
So I feel like I like this episode more than you did, but I will say this: I think the third act it tanks a little bit. Like it's not as funny. It's
That's
not
what
as
happens
sharp.
when you're a gag machine and don't have a good story to hang
right.
on.
It runs out of steam a little bit. Like the parts with Dolly Parton.
She was a decent guest. Again, all the guests did a fine job. Dolly Parton's just so goddamn likable too.
She is. There's nothing that was especially funny about any of this
I like
stuff.
the idea of her doing her halftime bit. She's a very famous country singer, but for some reason she has a jetpack and a Snoopy hat.
That I loved. Yeah, I thought that was really funny.
I liked also Apu interpreting the roars. Didn't love it. I thought it was funny, chuckle-worthy.
It didn't do much for me.
That sounds more like a safety than a they're in jail, so they can only hear the roars of the crowd. They can't see the game.
Right. I guess we didn't say this, but they break into the Super Bowl after they can't get in.
They do a take
and
on
then they get arrested.
The chloroform joke where basically
they see costumes for halftime and they're like, I know a way we can get in, and they use the costumes to knock out the security
just
guards.
like when Homer goes chloroform. I know how we can get in there. I'll give you this chloroform if you let me in. Yeah,
I like that one better. But
same joke.
So they break in, they go to jail, and there's a funny bit with Wiggum where he says every jail cell has a fake bar.
That bit.
Yeah, now that I say that,
I do like the idea.
I wanted to talk about it, but I didn't really like it. Like I didn't laugh, but it was.
So he goes. He
fine.
says every jail cell has a fail-safe fake bar, and he knocks on each one except the last one. He goes, "Well, by process of elimination." I like that idea.
And then he headbutts into it, and it's not fake, and he knocks out.
I like the idea that process of elimination. He just assumes that's funny.
That's just classic Wiggum to be that.
I also liked with the Dollywood where Wally knows her. They work together, and he helped run or send people to Dollywood and Euro
Dollywood. That's in Alabama.
Yeah, I like that idea too.
Yeah, I like
the idea
that too.
of Euro Dollywood. The idea of it being in Alabama.
Yep.
Perfect. Fine.
Yep.
I like it.
I like that, but Dolly Parton does get them out, and they
run around for a while. I remember this line where they run around forever.
Well, they run around to the montage of the Blur song too, which I like that. We see them in different angles,
very highly
directions.
energetic. Yeah.
Right, and then they stop, and Mo goes, "Homo, where the hell are we going?" And Homer says,
"I was following Flanders." That line's burned into me.
Yeah, that one. Me too. I remember that one a lot. But they ultimately do find something. They find a skybox that is filled with food, and they go in and they start eating all the food and everything. And we find out that it is Rupert Murdoch's skybox.
Owner of Fox.
Creator of Fox. Founder of Fox News Corp. All that fun stuff.
Yeah.
had some controversies after this episode, but not at this time. But he comes in on a helicopter and comes in and says, "I'm Rupert Murdoch, the murderous tyrant." Oh no, the billionaire tyrant, not murderous.
Yeah, again, all the guest stars were very serviceable. Dan Marino, the fact that you get this billionaire
very
owner
surprising
of the corporation.
they got Rupert Murdoch to say,
it is the Super
billionaire
Bowl
tyrant.
Show. Yeah, he was a great sport about it. He doesn't seem to be a very likable person in real life.
I don't think he's a funny guy.
I would be surprised. I was surprised that he would be a good sport about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And he was. He calls himself a billionaire tyrant. The whole joke is that he's a billionaire tyrant. He has goons. He has smoke pellets, and he does all these lines.
They weren't just smoke pellets. They were pellets that created goons.
Yeah, exactly.
That was funny. I like that.
Wait. No, it was all very over the top, very funny, and he played it very, very well, and he was a good sport. He was actually a very solid guy. That's a big deal to get the owner of Fox. It took him 10 years to, Simpsons helped make Fox what it is.
Absolutely. They wouldn't have the Super Bowl without the Simpsons.
It was a perfectly executed epic guest star.
Agreed.
And yeah, he did a fine job.
He was not Yao Minging, but yeah.
Again, sorry, Yao.
I'm surprised he called himself a tyrant. I feel like that was a big moment in his life, maybe.
Yeah. It's
Is this what people are saying about me?
Exactly. I was surprised he was such a good sport about it.
Yeah. So then, like we said before, they leave the skybox and they go, and they're about to finally get to the game when the winning team rushes in and pushes them all into the locker room.
Yeah.
And there's a funny line where President Clinton calls the locker room.
Well, they do a very good job showing the elation of the scene, like the tone. It's just
it's all very well done.
They communicated how awesome it would be to be in the winning locker room after the Super Bowl.
Right.
They do a really great job of just communicating that, and then the Bill Clinton call is
Clinton calls
hammers at home.
I want to thank you for your you guys are under pressure. My Bill Clinton voice is pretty good, huh?
It's all right.
I'm doing this voice, George W. Bush. Now I'm doing my Barack Obama.
You want any more? You got a Carter in there, Jimmy Carter?
Hey, I'm Jimmy Carter. This is how I talk.
That's all right.
But anyway, I don't remember how we talked about Jimmy.
You were doing bad Clinton.
I was doing an excellent Clinton impression. Yeah, he calls, and I like that Homer's just like, hey, that's great. And ultimately drops the phone, and Clinton's like, I command you to talk to me.
I like the idea that Homer is A, nonplussed that the president is talking to him, and B, that when Clinton says, we're very proud of your achievements, Homer takes it at face value. It's like, it's about time.
Right.
Like, he's not even
that
considering that they think he's in the football team.
Right.
I like that he personally took it.
I think there was a lot more, impeachment stuff to this, like... Maybe not Homer being like, I don't care.
I didn't read into that at all.
But certainly the Al Gore part.
Oh, is that what that was? So they cut to after Homer leaves him hanging on the phone. Al Gore is measuring the
drapes in the Oval Office,
and Homer's like, "Do you have to do that?" I mean, Clinton, they're one and the same.
They're the same person.
Clinton was, "Do you have to do that now?"
Yeah, and he just like turns and nods.
Yeah. Oh, I see. You know what? I thought that Al Gore was pretty much a shoo-in for the 2000 election.
Maybe that was part of it too.
Because he did technically win. He had the most votes.
Well, history would be very different, sir.
It'd be the same.
Yeah, probably. It would all.
It's all the same.
I don't know.
It doesn't matter who gets elected. It's the same every time.
And then.
But yeah, no. So in general, I didn't think the Clinton thing was very funny. There were the only line I laughed at was when Homer says it's about time. I also didn't like they had to put in a token. I'm going to Disneyland. What do they say?
Disney World.
Never been to either.
That's a shame.
I've been to Euro Dollywood, but
we're in Alabama naturally.
Very racist down there. Sorry, Alabama.
There's one Alabama listener who's just like, doggone it.
It's the vulture from Looney Tunes.
Why do you got to talk to me like that, Jack?
And then he yells some derogatory terms at black people. That's what they do down there.
Okay, I don't know about that.
They have the Confederate flag still.
All right.
They're less than us.
Oh, no. I don't agree at all with what Jack is saying. The South is a lovely place.
Great for orgies.
Yup.
The South will rise again.
Yeah, and so will I in like 15 minutes after that refractory period.
15 minutes? Come on. Not that old.
20 minutes sometimes.
So they do a token Disney World joke. Disney World? Disneyland?
Disney World.
Yeah. And I didn't like it where he's just
honestly don't remember.
Wally just says like,
really?
He goes, it's not very good. Yeah, Homer nods. I feel like it was just a very weak nod at Disney.
Yeah, I guess
Simpsons writers seem to think that's funny to knock Disney. I guess because it's this big, it's funny the bigger they are, the harder they fall. But their Disney jokes almost always land flat.
Yeah.
Carl in this scene, Carl also mentions I should call my wife. It's her anniversary or something like that.
Oh, well, okay. So they all get Super Bowl rings when they're on their way home, and everyone's like, "What are you going to do with your Super Bowl ring?" And Carl says, "It's my wife's anniversary tomorrow. I think I was going to give it to her."
Yeah, that's a funny line that he skipped the anniversary for the
Right.
Super Bowl. Although I guess he could still make it in time.
Yeah.
I mean, you're married. I'm in a long-term relationship. I feel like if we had the chance to go to the Super Bowl a day before the anniversary, it wouldn't be that big a deal.
Nah.
If it was the day of, I could see there being some.
My wife doesn't care, and she don't listen to this podcast either, so she don't know.
What a jerk!
Don't you say that about my wife, you son of a bitch!
She's amazing. She's
Goddamn right.
I'd marry her if you were. You
son of a bitch.
She's a jerk.
I don't know what I want you to say anymore.
The Madden. It ends with the Madden thing. Besides being a proto Wii,
Yep.
I thought it was funny. It didn't
was a
roll
funny
my
cap
eyes
on the
at
end.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it, especially
It was-
again, treating this as a Super Bowl event episode.
Right. It was
perfect way to end it.
It was meta without being too winky, in my opinion, and I liked Vincent Price showing up and,
Yeah,
and
that was a
Jody
perfect
also.
button, yeah.
It worked.
I mean,
and it was an influence for this very
I feel
show.
like that was a great button for that scene in the A plot. I don't think it served as the best. I feel like the B plot, if it's gonna be there, it should have had some better resolution than that. I don't know.
I mean, really? Did you really want to see a resolution for that? You hated the B plot.
No, but I don't know. I feel like just because I don't like something,
Doesn't mean it shouldn't
wouldn't it
be
be weird if you
unfinished.
saw a really bad movie? What's a really, really bad movie that was out in theaters?
Point Break.
All right, so imagine you going to see the Point Break remake. You're like, oh, this is terrible. Wouldn't you still be wouldn't you be weirded out or feel left like something is not right if the movie just ended 55 minutes into it and just
I
stopped?
probably would. I'd feel let down.
I don't know. I just like the idea of that funny, weird, surreal button also being, I guess, the idea of that's also tying up the B plot.
Yeah.
That doesn't quite work for me. That's all.
Okay, fair enough.
Hey, Mo, you want to come with me and Wally to the Super Bowl?
Oh, absolutely. My favorite team's in it. The Atlanta Falcons. Yeah, ever since I was a boy, I've always loved the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, they're good, but I wouldn't count out the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I hear that President Clinton is going to be watching with his wife, Hillary.
All right, so that is it for Sunday, Cruddy Sunday. It is time to rank this episode on our Hippo test. We're looking at the humor, the integrity, the production values, and the originality. So, Jack, we're going to put 2 minutes on that clock.
Beep, 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 beep.
All right, there we go. So, looking at the humor of this episode, Jack, from 0 to 5, what are you thinking?
3.5. Maybe 3. I don't know.
You said
3.5.
3.5.
Does that seem high? Like I said, there was a bunch of individual jokes I found funny. It was definitely, it's purgatorial, but if it had so much of that classic era in it.
I don't think it's high. I was a little surprised to hear you say 3.5 because I think I'm going to go 3.5, and I really like this episode a lot.
So maybe I'll say 3. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, so I'm going to say 3.5
There were
for
a lot
now.
of individual jokes. Maybe I should take away. I don't
could maybe go up to 4.
Not only were there a lot of individual jokes that I liked or loved.
Yeah.
I can't remember any jokes where usually when we watch one of these post-classic episodes, we harp on jokes that was just like, ugh.
There was not a lot.
bleh.
Yeah, there's not a lot that didn't work here, and also just like watching this episode was fun. Like I enjoyed watching this episode. I've seen this one before. I will see it
almost
again.
as if it almost had that feeling as if you're watching a classic episode of The Simpsons.
Right, exactly. So I'm going to say 3.5. I could maybe go up to 4, but I didn't really love the last act. I didn't think there was a lot of laugh out loud stuff. So.
I'll put 3.5, but I could go 3. We'll
Okay,
see.
so we'll see what happens. The integrity of this episode, 0 to 5.
Little bit of whiffs of jerk ass. Smelled some of that ass.
Definitely smell that ass in this episode.
No,
there's-
I don't
but there's
think anybody.
nothing-
Nobody's
there's
really
nothing
out of character.
Out of
yeah.
character, yeah. So
I also like to consider in the integrity category emotional stakes. I think that's a
Okay.
great category to give extra points for when they really do something. They do an emotional scene and do it well, like the
Right.
whale episode.
Okay.
There's obviously none of that in this, so I wouldn't say it's like a 4 or anything.
Yeah,
I'd
but-
say it's perfectly serviceable. I'm gonna say 3.
I'm going to say 3.5 on this one. The production values.
I think if it is an event episode, they could have done a little bit more with the big,
Well-
like there's a scene where the people spell out "Hi Rupert" and I don't know. I feel like they could have been bigger. I don't
As
know.
John Madden points out, it's an episode about singing, or it's an episode about football that has Dolly Parton, and there's no football or singing in the episode. That's something to that.
I'll give it points. They did a great job getting the feel of a Super Bowl commercial.
They did. The Catholic Church thing was really good. I thought that was very well done.
The voice acting was great.
The voice acting was great.
The guest stars
Even all
were
the guest
serviceable.
stars. Yep. I think I'm going to go pretty high actually on the
I'm
production.
gonna go 3.5.
I'm going to say solid 4 on the production for this one, because I think there was a lot of good visual humor in this episode too. that we don't always get.
Yeah.
And then finally, the originality.
All right, so it's fairly original of an idea. It's structurally, the B plot, I'm going to take off maybe a full point. I just don't like it.
Yeah.
It's a gag machine. There's not a lot of story. Like you say, the third act runs out of steam. Structurally, it's not terrible. Like you said, the first act did a good job of getting us to the premise.
Right. It's not the worst thing.
2.5, maybe 3. 2.5. I gotta take off a full point for the Vincent Price stuff.
Magic?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna go 2.5.
I didn't have a problem with the egg magic, obviously, and I don't know. There's just something about this episode, even though it's not like a coherent A to B to C story. I guess it is. It's Homer goes to the Super Bowl and then has to break in, but there's not like a lot of stakes to it. There's not a lot going on. What did you give it? You gave it a 3?
2.5.
You gave it a 2.5. I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
All right. I could be swayed.
That 1 point is the difference between our opinions on Vincent Price.
I could be swayed to go up to 3. When this time period is that we keep saying we could be swayed, I don't know when that is.
I don't know when it is either.
But I could theoretically be swayed. If there's a multiverse of us ranking this, I could see one of them also giving it a 3.
Yeah, I could see that. Okay, so we have crunched our numbers, and Cruddy Sunday has ranked pretty high, Jack. It is ranked as a slightly better episode than Skinner's Sense of Snow and a slightly worse episode than Bart's New Friend. That puts it at number 65 on our current list.
So if we were going backwards, if we were actually ranking things on being the least worst,
our 5th least worst episode ever. Yeah,
that's a perfect spot for it. I definitely think that belongs there.
And I don't know about you, but I don't really remember Bart's New Friend all that well.
I remember we were really on top of it.
We
Some
liked
people
it at
were
the
surprised.
time.
It really didn't stick with us.
It had no staying power whatsoever. I've forgotten everything about it.
I could still see it being up there.
That may have been a snubs and flubs situation, but we'll see. Maybe we'll watch it again one day.
It's a Marissa Tomei.
Oh boy.
Jack Palance.
She earned it, my friend.
Jack Palance accidentally gave Bart's New Friend the number 4 spot.
She earned it. My Cousin Vinny, excellent movie, great, and she's terrific in it. But that is it.
And she's Aunt May.
Yes, she is. And that is it for this episode of Worst Episode Ever. If you have an episode you would like to suggest that we watch, you can do it on our website. That's weepodcast.com, weepodcast.com. And while you're there, you should click through our Amazon links, which I didn't say at the top of the show, and I usually do.
Yeah, we really. I don't know how we did a 9-minute intro.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Didn't do anything we usually do.
But you guys have been so terrific about the Amazon click-throughs.
Thank you.
We really, really appreciate that. You guys are great.
Yeah, especially now.
Because
we have double bandwidth to pay
double
for.
the bandwidth because we have a new podcast. You may have heard about it. It's called 90s Percentile. It is available on iTunes and all the places you normally get your podcasts. So check it out.
And check out our social. We're plugging the hell out of it.
We're plugging the hell out of it. We eventually will stop plugging the hell out of it because we want you guys to spread the word to your little friends.
Exactly. A very important time for a podcast these first few weeks. So
this is like post-crucifixion when the apostles had to spread the word about Jesus. I just read a book about Jesus.
I was going to say, I wasn't thinking that the early podcast, the first couple of weeks of a podcast life, is Acts of the Apostles.
Well,
but
it is.
Right.
This is the Acts of the Apostles era for 90s Percentile. Tell your friends.
There's like one of you big Grufik fans on our forum is walking down the street and is suddenly blinded, and they changed their name to Salt Paul.
Yeah.
To Pufik.
Someone in Damascus is listening right now and is going to become our greatest evangelist. But 90s Percentile.
Trump's an idiot.
90s Percentile. Google it. You can, or just go to our website. You can find the link to the 90s Percentile website there. And our sync points are still available. You can still use that promo code 90sP.
Yeah,
half off on that Home Alone one.
And keep an eye out for maybe a new one soon.
Absolutely. And if you're listening to this the day it comes out, Simpsons Trivia is tonight in Brooklyn. If you're not listening to it the day it comes out, or you don't live in Brooklyn, Google Woohoo Classic Simpsons Trivia. Find out more information about that. I co-hosted with a friend of the show, Dan Ozzie. When you come to Brooklyn Trivia, Jack is not the other guy. There's another. Jack is there.
Feel free to compliment me.
Yes.
Other Dan does appreciate all the compliments he gets for hosting a podcast he doesn't host, but I wouldn't mind a few compliments.
Jack wouldn't mind it. Next week, we are going to be watching an episode from season 13. It is called Papa's Got a Brand New Badge. Baby, get ready for it. It's coming next week.
All right. Sounds
mediocre. Okay, so that is it for this episode of Worst Episode Ever. Do all the things that we said to do before. And, Jack, how do we always end the show?
Usually you ask me to say cut all this, so I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to say, Dan, how do we usually end this show?
We do it by saying cut all. Hey, guys, it's me, Hemus. I didn't get a chance to say much in this episode, so I just want to say cut all this. I'm going to go out to the bus stop now. Bye. Cut all this.
I would like to cut that.
Well, you can't.
Well, John, what did you think of tonight's episode?
I loved it.
The last-minute addition of Wally Kogan to the lineup was a bit of a gamble, but it really paid off.
Marge and Lisa painting eggs. Did that work for you?
Oh, big time. They came off the bench with a huge effort that allowed Homer and Bart to make some significant gains.
Did it strike you as odd that in a Super Bowl show with Dolly Parton, we didn't see any football or singing?
I hadn't thought about it, Pat, but in retrospect, it was kind of a ripoff. What a way to treat the loyal fans who've put up with so much nonsense from this franchise.
Any final thoughts?
Nah, I'm too mad. Let's get the heck out of here.
All aboard, boys. I've been waiting for you.
Now, I'll tell you, that doesn't make a lick of sense.
I know.